Talk about what's happening in Nigeria. Donald Trump is now threatening military action in Nigeria. Now we got Nicki Minaj. She's been on social media now speaking at a U.S. organized United Nations event to call attention to the plight of Christians in Nigeria, claiming more than 7,000 Christians have died just this year. She expressed gratitude to Donald Trump for prioritizing the issue.
In Nigeria, Christians are being targeted, driven from their homes, and killed. Churches have been burned. Families have been torn apart, and entire communities live in fear constantly, simply because of how they pray. Sadly, this problem is not only a growing problem in Nigeria, but also in so many other countries across the world, and it demands urgent action. And I want to be clear. Protecting Christians in Nigeria is not about taking sides or dividing people. It is about uniting humanity. Nigeria is a beautiful nation with deep faith traditions and lots of beautiful barbs that I can't wait to see.
All right, folks, about a 5-minute speech that she gave. Now, the government there says they reject a claim that genocide is happening there. While violence in Nigeria has indeed claimed thousands of lives, it stems from multiple causes that we're about to get into right now with our guests. So let's talk to national security and foreign policy expert Asha Castleberry-Hernandez. Glad to have you here. So, all right, explain to people what's going on there. 'Cause let's just be real clear. Americans don't give a shit about what's happening in African countries. We don't. So all of a sudden, Nicki Minaj is now talking about this here. The right-wing MAGA folks are now, applauding her. So really, what's the cause of this violence in Nigeria? And is it recent or has this been happening for a long time?
Well, it's been happening for quite some time, since 2009, orchestrated by Boko Haram. But what has happened is that because this has been such an enduring problem, orchestrated by Boko Haram, it has created a complex security environment where it's just not just Christians that are being targeted, it's also Muslims. And it's so perplexed that when you look at the tactical approach here, many of the attacks are like coming in and saying, oh, are you Christian? Okay, I'm going to attack you for that. No, they're just attacking people. They attack mosques, they attack churches. So it's more perplexing. When you look at the optics here, it's too one-sided. She needs to be promoting on the fact that it's a humanitarian issue, a humanity issue, and that in terms of interfaith, we need solidarity between the two countries, not just focus on one religious community.
Well, we understand why, because you have these right-wingers who claim to be evangelicals and loving Jesus, and they want to say, oh, Christians are being persecuted. This is also part of Donald Trump's whole MO by saying, oh, Christians are being persecuted. Look, they think Christians are being persecuted in the United States.
Yes, and in fact, this is part of his base where, it's driven by the fact that I have a lot of Christians. In fact, a lot of them are deeply influential when it comes to galvanizing the black vote and the brown vote to justify why they should support me. So I think this is something where they want to go global with it. But again, they're using the wrong person. When it comes to celebrity diplomacy, the point is to shape global policy. And this is not the right approach. You got to look at history. Like, for instance, you could use someone like a Reverend Jesse Jackson, who had a whole bunch of access to foreign leaders and governments to make a difference. But here it's not. All it did was agitate the Nigerian government, and it has no influence here. All it did was pretty much raise awareness because she had 26 million followers, but it did not make a difference.
Well, here is the tweet that this idiot sent out on Truth Social. If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I am hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians warning the Nigerian government better move fast. He might want to slow down, Asha, because last I checked, isn't Nigeria number 4 in sending oil to America?
Yes. And also, too, that's a very cavalierish approach. As I said, I told Newsweek, he should not necessarily put defense on the table. It should be approached through diplomacy, working very closely with Nigerian government and also those of leadership and influence in the area. So approaching it with a hammer is not necessarily the right one. But I think what we're seeing is a pattern here. It's the same thing what you're seeing as far as the gunboat diplomacy that's being conducted in Venezuela. We start off harsh and then we try to get soft over time. And also just going back to the Nicki Minaj issue, she does not have influence when it comes to Nigeria nor foreign policy in the United States. So you need to treat all these issues the same way. Would you bring her to the peace accords in Egypt to resolve the issue in the Gaza crisis? No. Would you bring her to go talk to President Zelensky? No. And would you also have her address the issues developing in Venezuela? No. So I think because it's Nigeria and there's a level of deprioritization here, this is why we invite people like her to play a part in this.
Malcolm Nance tweeted this in response to that idiot post. Is Trump effing high? Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa with 237 million people. Also, it's 45% Christian. That's 106 million Christians. He said the Gulf has been fighting a counterinsurgency against Islamic terrorists for decades. Nigerian Muslims murder, kidnap, attack disproportionately in the north, which is why we were helping them stop Boko Haram. Get this demented old fool off the Adderall and off social media.
That's right. So it is important to note that we have spent, again, another more than a decade engaging in this specific issue and working very closely with our African allies as far as addressing these issues. But unfortunately, it requires more than just a defense approach. It requires diplomacy and using international organizations like the United Nations the right way, not necessarily just bringing in a hammer to address it and then calling it out. I just think that this is definitely treated differently compared to the other crises that are happening around the world because it is Nigeria.
Questions from the panel. Niambi, you first.
Thank you so much for bringing this context. I mean, this is certainly not an issue that requires a celebrity, but someone who really understands the region. Is there any concern that Trump's threats might be followed through on, and this sort of hey about Christian violence as used as pretext to invade Nigeria and take resources?
There is some concerns involving your implication. It's very wild in terms of which way it can go. But I think what we're seeing is the way they're studying this approach is probably going to be similar to what you're seeing in Venezuela, as well as the Gaza crisis, where they feel that, he starts off very partial, only favoring one group, and then eventually he starts to double down on diplomacy. But rhetoric matters when it comes to the United States presidency. So it definitely will most likely exacerbate conditions there in Nigeria where they'll take advantage of his optics. That's why it's just very unfortunate that her optics there were one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, Koi?
So personally, I haven't respected Nicki since she went on her drug-fueled tirade about Cardi B's children, but that's neither here nor there. I just want to bring up a few valuable points about how, while we're over here in the West, what we're missing about a crucial component about the African continent is it's not about religion. Most often it's about tribalism. What we're seeing in Nigeria is that the Fulanis are actually the ones that are indiscriminately attacking. So that means they're not focused on attacking Muslims or Christians specifically. Nigeria, to set the context, is a 50% Muslim, 50% Christian country, right? So yes, they're not focused on religion as much as they're focused on getting money, right? These are gangs essentially. So they're extorting people for money. They're kidnapping people indiscriminately, right? But I think to Roland's point previously, we have to follow the money. When we think about oil, right? When you said resources earlier, when my previous panelist said resources, we're talking about oil. Nigeria just last year opened up the largest single site refinery in the world with a current capacity of 650,000 barrels per day under the world's richest black man, Aliko Dangote, right? So why do you think the United States all of a sudden gives a damn about Nigeria? That's why. What about when Trump called Nigeria a shithole country? He didn't care about Nigeria then. He doesn't care about Nigeria now. It's about following the money. And as long as we follow the money, we know exactly where Trump is headed. This is rhetoric. Nicki was used as a tool. And it's unfortunate that she didn't see that that's exactly what this was.
Right. And you could tell that she didn't necessarily really assess the entire situation in terms of the dynamics, especially when it comes to energy. I mean, energy diplomacy is a huge part when it comes to U.S. foreign policy, right? So when the Ukraine-Russia crisis broke out, we were restricted in terms of a specific energy market to where the United States had to run to Venezuela as far as helping to stabilize oil prices. And it's the same thing when it comes to Nigeria, right? But what we're seeing is a level of bullying tactics when it comes to the United States right now, where it's, yeah, I need you, but I can still bully you to get what I want. And it's very risky because this is not how you manage your allies and partners in the 21st century international system. So I don't think that that's being taken into account, especially when it comes to Nicki Minaj. We need someone better that understands these issues, has the ability to project power and influence, and be able to engage in this effectively, and not what we just saw just recently.
Well, let's just be clear. Having Nicki Minaj speak on this stuff is just about trying to get viral attention. That's what it is. Teresa?
Yeah, I totally agree. And, I think one of my questions for you, Acha, is what are the Nigerian people saying about this? Because this, is an economic issue, right? And I do believe Nicki Minaj was just the wrong source of this. I think she should have been very educated on this. But what are the people, in Nigeria saying about what's going on and how they're being portrayed?
Well, apparently they're saying it's insulting to use her as a way to influence their security environment right now. Again, as mentioned before, we could have used the interfaith community. We could have used civil rights leaders and look at examples like Reverend Jesse Jackson, or tap into people like, Reverend Al Sharpton or Jamal Bryant, if you want to talk about an interfaith approach, even the Pope. So to be able to put her on the international stage and promote a message like this, it's insulting to them, and it has no influence, and it tells you a lot about how the United States views African countries. Just an example prior to this was South Africa. Look how we engaged with their leadership in the Oval Office. So it's further defining how we are approaching this issue, and to be able to put her on stage as far as trying to influence it, I don't think they're not in favor of it at all. And where is the approach when it comes to the Sudan issue? They've been pretty limited as far as how they're messaging on that. So the messaging is not good when it comes to U.S. foreign policy involving this continent. And unfortunately, they should have used someone else.
An excellent point. Asha, we appreciate it. Thanks for the breakdown.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. and that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.